People have individual differences in responses to training. And that lit a fire in me because I'm a lifelong learner. I just wanted to know why. Why does, this athlete who does this type of protocol gain at such a high rate versus this athlete who doesn't gain anything or potentially, gets worse? I first picked up a barbell when I was in my early 20s. I wanted to lose weight, get healthy, and I just felt that I wanted to make a change, look differently, get stronger. And in the process of losing weight, I just fell in love with hard work. I fell in love with, pushing my body to that next level. So I first started coaching bodybuilding because of my transformation. People saw me and said, wow, I can't believe where you were and where you got to, and I want to do that too. And so naturally I took, clients on for free, coached them, and then they did really well. And that's where I got started. And the transition into powerlifting happened when my athletes, they needed something to do in the off season to keep encouraging them. And that's what powerlifting does, right? Like, you lift a weight, you say, wow, that's awesome. I want to do something even more. And so that was what my athletes needed in the off season. They needed that encouragement. They needed something to strive for, a number, a metric, something to encourage them. Because, when you train, it's very hard to see the progress in the short term. With powerlifting, you can see that progress. And so what happened was, naturally, those athletes who ended up doing powerlifting, I found myself actually enjoying it more, and they did better. So I found that it was a better fit for me in coaching. I was at a meet where I was coaching 6 athletes for powerlifting. And I started to see the camaraderie and the encouragement in every attempt. Everyone's running over like, nice job, good work. Or if someone missed, hey, you'll get it your next one. And I saw that camaraderie and I thought to myself, that's what I want to be part of. I want to be part of something that encourages people to encourage each other, to make change, to get stronger, to be the best version of themselves. And what I observed in bodybuilding was it became such a solo sport. It was you versus you, which is awesome. It's awesome to be you versus you. But there's something about powerlifting that brings that camaraderie. And so for me, it was a natural tendency to move toward that. Then I started competing in powerlifting. And I just fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with the camaraderie, pushing yourself to those new levels. So I just fully converted over to coaching powerlifting full time. When I first got into powerlifting, I did have a coach, and my coach was Dr. Mike Zordos. And I learned so much from him. I learned so much about how someone adapts to training and how I was adapting to training, how I was adapting to volumes and intensities and frequency. And that was really beneficial to see his lens of how I was doing to adapt to training stress, which naturally led me to want to learn more. And I think that every coach that you work with and every situation that you're in with a coach, you can apply all those concepts and principles into your own practice. And so I've had the benefit of not only working with Dr. Mike Zordos, but a variety of other coaches in powerlifting. One of the things that I've learned about myself is I really value the interaction with the coach and getting their objective view on me and how I'm adapting. I value the relationship. I value the feedback back and forth and the responsiveness. And I've tried to emulate that in my coaching, to be really responsive, to provide timely feedback. And I think that that's an important concept. I think that's an important variable to have in your coaching. What I enjoy the most about coaching is the relationship that you build with someone and being able to come together to try to solve a problem, put our heads together and decide, what do we need to do to get you to this place that you want to be? And that is totally different for every person. What I learned when I started working with more athletes in powerlifting is that people have individual differences in responses to training. And that lit a fire in me because I'm a lifelong learner. I just wanted to know why. Why does, this athlete who does this type of protocol gain at such a high rate versus this athlete who doesn't gain anything or potentially, gets worse? Why does that happen? And that led me to enroll in RTS Classroom because it answered those questions or got me closer to answering those questions of the why. What is the individual difference? And how can you program in a way that takes that in mind? And what I found is that over time, the top-down periodization, the top-down model of creating training and hoping that in 12 months or in 10 months that we're going to be in this place is really difficult to do. And moving through these styles of volume and strength and peaking blocks, everybody responds differently to it. And what I found is that starting at the ground level of creating a really good training week, something that a person can repeat, continue to get better, make progression on, using emerging strategies, is the best training approach that I could take. So moving from a bottom-up approach versus a top-down model of periodization in my coaching practice has changed the way that I approach the athlete. I don't assume that they need a certain level of volume to progress, that they don't need a certain level of frequency to progress. And so I basically start out pretending I know nothing about this person and getting a training history from them, eventually collecting some really good ideas from them and from my observations from them, and starting there and evolving that over time. It takes a lot of work. It's not easy. What's easy is to just take, hey, I'm going to give you this competition exercise. You're going to do it 3 times a week and you're going to do these volumes. That's easy. It's much harder to start from the ground up and build something that that person uniquely needs to get better. When I first started training, I did a lot of volume at lower intensities, and I did pretty much only the competition exercises. And that got me pretty far right off the gate. I gained pretty quickly and gained a lot of movement proficiency. What I found was that I hit a ceiling, and I was developing these weak range of motion issues that the competition exercise just wasn't solving. And over time, what I found was, after taking RTS Classroom, that programming in more specific development exercises, things that would actually make my competition exercise stronger in a weak range of motion, was the best bang for the buck in terms of time that I could spend. So I would say gradually over time, I shifted from this competition exercise only, lots of volume, lower intensities, lower RPE, to moving away from percentage-based training, using RPE, using development exercises to improve my weak range of motion, and actually moving toward higher intensities. Over the course of the last 12 years, I've had training setbacks, and some of them have been because of injury, some of them have been because of work-life balance and trying to progress even though life stress is really high and work stress is really high. And I think those have been the biggest challenges for me. And also being able to coach, right? Being able to work and coach, and then also be able to progress as an athlete. So over the course of the 12 years of training, I have definitely had many injuries, lower back injuries, neck injuries, pec injuries, and I've very quickly realized that there's a benefit in working with rehab professionals that encourage training, that don't discourage it. And so I've had the pleasure of working with several physical therapists that are awesome. They train themselves. And so that's been really beneficial. And to not look at injury as, this catastrophic issue that's going to prevent me from training, but to look at it as an experience and a learning opportunity. If someone was new to powerlifting and they had some fear of what to do, needed to learn the ropes, I would tell them to join up with a group of people at a local gym that do this and try to learn as much as they possibly can. And try different things. Don't be married to one type of training approach. Try something and measure your response. The earlier that you can start writing things down and tracking things and noticing the small things about your response to training, the better the long-term results are going to be for you. So what's next for me as a lifter is I've recently been dabbling in equip lifting, which is interesting for me because I never thought as a raw lifter that I would ever put equipment on. And for development purposes, for coaching, I wanted to know what my athletes were experiencing when they put equipment on. So I recently just did my first equip meet and had some really nice success with it. And I think I want to continue with that for a little while. And there's just something so exciting about putting 100 pounds more than your raw squat on your back and 75 pounds more than you can bench, raw bench, and be able to do it in a shirt. So I think I'm gonna give that a run for a while for myself as an athlete. I'm really excited as a coach to not only be able to coach athletes, but to be able to coach coaches and to be able to help them to learn how to do bottom-up periodization, to be able to help them to put together training from the bottom up. So I'm really excited to be able to do that and influence the next generation of coaches. And so naturally, it made sense for me to sign up for RTS Classroom because that was a way to do it for powerlifting. Like, I got the sense of how to do this for bodybuilding, but I really wanted to help people to get to be the strongest version of themselves. And so RTS Classroom was a way for me to do that. It helped me to think about my own training because I coached myself for a number of years. It helped me to think about protocols. It helped me to think about volume and intensity and frequency and what movement I should do to improve my competition exercise. And so that for me was really beneficial as an athlete, but it was also beneficial for me as a coach because then I can employ those same tools into their program.